Your remote learning experience for Foundations Biology. I'm sure a lot of you have been having the same struggles that I've been having with PowerSchool Learning, which is very unfortunate because that's kind of what we need to upload all of the assignments and everything. But for now, I'm going to continue talking about the cell cycle, and also I'm going to update you on a few things for our PowerSchool Learning page. So I guess let's start there. Okay. So remember that every day that you come to PowerSchool Learning, you're always going to go to the Today in Biology page, okay? So I will wait for that to load. And I'm sure a lot of you have been getting this, which is unfortunate, but I'm just going to reload it very quick. Here we go. All right. So if you click on the 20th, which is Friday, you guys have an assignment, okay? So you guys are going to watch the lecture on the cell cycle in mitosis, okay? So that lecture is going to be, is what this is right now, and it's going to be put here. So I've extended the due date for this assignment to tomorrow, which is Friday at 11:59 p.m., because I know that a lot of people have been struggling with using PowerSchool Learning. But in the future, I might just email you guys your assignments because I think that'll be easier than struggling with PowerSchool Learning. And if you can't upload assignments to PowerSchool Learning, you can always send them to me through my email, which is jenna.deshane, at sau26.org. Okay? So, actually, let me put that on here. Whoops, I don't know what I'm typing. Mr. Shane's email, which is jenna.deshane at sau26.org. Perfect. So if you need to reach me through that email, that is A-okay. Okay? So for this assignment, you're going to want to download this document. Okay, so this is the fill-in of the notes that I posted yesterday. Okay, so I actually have it already uploaded right here, and this is what we are going to continue doing today. Okay? So yesterday we left off with talking about the beginning phases of mitosis, and we also briefly talked about the cell cycle, which is right here. So we talked about interphase, which is kind of a period of growth and preparing for division for cells. And then we started with prophase, which is the very first phase of mitosis right here. So today we're going to get into talking about metaphase. Okay, so oops, wrong slide. So metaphase, when you think of metaphase, think M for middle. So I'm going to put M equals middle right here. Okay, you don't have to add that, but that's just something that I like to use to remember metaphase. So it is a middle phase of mitosis. Okay, and so what happens is those chromosomes that we talked about yesterday, remember that is the genetic material for the cell. It holds all of the cell's DNA. So these are chromosomes right here, these X-like structures. All right. I'm also going to upload a video for you guys that is a model of mitosis. I did this for one of my other biology classes, and it's kind of just me demonstrating the phases of mitosis, and I actually do it with spaghetti and string, so it might sound a little weird, but I highly encourage you to check that out. If you're having a hard time visualizing mitosis, I can absolutely help you with that, okay? So during metaphase, all the chromosomes are pulled to the center of the cell. Okay, so you can see right here that the chromosomes are right in the middle of the cell. So if this whole thing is the cell, that purple line is the cell membrane. These are the chromosomes that are lining up in the middle. And remember that those rope-like structures we talked about yesterday, the microtubules are going to start attaching to the chromosomes right at the middle, okay? So that is going to be metaphase. It's very short, so my discussion of it will also be pretty brief, all right? After metaphase, we have anaphase, okay? Anaphase is the third phase of mitosis, and it's where sister chromatids separate, okay? So if you remember the structure of a chromosome, all right, we have this whole X-like structure is a chromosome, and what happens is that the sister chromatids, which is this yellow piece is a sister chromatid and this blue piece is a sister chromatid. And they're called sister chromatids because they're just joined together in the same chromosome. Okay, so sister chromatid right there, sister chromatid right there. And during anaphase, what happens is that those sister chromatids separate. As you can see right here, we went from this to this, all right? And so each of the chromatid is now considered a chromosome. Okay? Let me just make sure that I'm giving you guys the correct. Hang on just a second here. Just want to make sure I'm giving you guys the correct answers. Oh, okay. Here we go. So my apologies, that is the incorrect answer. So the third stage is where the sister chromatids separate and each chromatid is now considered a daughter, okay? So these are kind of just, these separated sister chromatids are now called a daughter, okay? So what happens is the microtubules, this mitotic spindle, will start to pull these sister chromatids towards the opposite ends or poles of the cell. So just like our Earth has a north pole and a south pole, it's kind of the same thing for a cell, all right? There's a pole on this end and then there's a pole on this end. And so these little rope-like structures start to pull the chromosomes towards the end, their end of the cell. So also you could see in this phase is that the cell is kind of pinching in a little bit and eventually it's going to pinch all the way off and become two new cells. And that's when we get to telophase, which is the last step of mitosis. Okay, so it's the final stage where chromatids move to opposite sides of the cell and two new nuclei are formed. Okay, so I'm going to put two new nuclei right here. Right, so what happens is the nuclei, so the kind of membrane that holds all the DNA together, will start to reform. So it'll form that protective layer again around the chromosomes. As you can see right here, there's kind of like a faint purplish area that is starting to surround the chromosomes, and the cell membrane is beginning to pinch off more and more. Okay, so these two cells are called daughter cells, all right? So kind of like how we call them sister chromatids, for whatever reason it's associated with females, so it's two daughter cells. So these are the two new cells that are going to form, and then a new membrane forms, which allows cytokinesis to occur. Okay, so once the cells have, or once the new cells have formed, they officially separate by cytokinesis, okay? And that's just kind of snipping the parts that are connected together and they kind of split apart into two new cells. And what's cool about these new cells is that they are actually genetically identical to one another. So that's important because if you have a stomach cell, you'll want that stomach cell to produce another stomach cell. You won't want a stomach cell to produce a lung cell or a liver cell. You'll want it to produce an identical copy of itself. And that's what happens during mitosis. Okay? So we are going to go over some definitions briefly. There are only 3 slides left, and then that'll be it for today. And just a reminder, you'll need to fill in these words into your PowerPoint and then just upload them to me. All right? So we talked about sister chromatids already, but the official definition is they are a pair of connected and identical chromosomes. All right, so they are connected together at the center right here called this centromere, and they're also identical to one another. So this side of the chromosome is identical to this side of the chromosomes. All right, so another definition that we need to become comfortable with is duplicated chromosomes. So these are chromosomes that are in an X shape. All right, so before we undergo mitosis and before our DNA has been copied, your chromosomes actually look like this. But what happens is your DNA gets copied and it makes an identical pair, and that pair looks like this. So you have this, and then it kind of creates a twin, and they are connected together at the centromere. All right? Some more definitions. Speaking of centromere, the centromere is the middle part of the chromosome. All right, that is the middle part of the chromosome that holds the chromosomes together. Okay? So the reason why you want those chromosomes to be held together is that they don't get mixed up with other parts of your DNA. So these are going to stay together at the centromere until they get separated via mitosis. All right? So there is a slight difference in mitosis between plant cells and animal cells. Okay, so if you guys remember when we talked about the structure of plants and animals in terms of their cells, plant cells have this cell wall, which is this black line that goes all the way around the cell. And that's really important for the plant cell because it keeps it nice and rigid so that when plant cells receive water, because that's what they need to survive is that water, they don't their cells don't burst. They can stay nice and rigid, okay? So when we undergo mitosis with a plant cell, we're going to want to form we're forming 2 new cells, and each of those new cells has to have a cell wall. So what's going to happen is towards the end of mitosis, your cells, or the plant cells, are going to form what's called a cell plate, okay? So this cell plate is found in plant cells. All right, and so it forms at the end of the last phase of mitosis, telophase. All right, and this cell plate becomes the new cell wall. Okay, so it's kind of, the cell plate is kind of just like the beginning part of a cell wall, and eventually after mitosis is done, it becomes the actual cell wall. Okay, one for one cell, one for the other cell, so that each cell has a cell wall. All right. However, it's a little bit different in animal cells. Animal cells form what's called a cleavage furrow. So what happens is when these cells start to pinch in, they form this just piece right here, which is called a cleavage furrow. So this, is in animal cells. And it will form also at the end of telophase, and it becomes the new cell membrane. Okay, so a cleavage furrow will form the cell membrane, and the cell plate will form the new cell wall. So that's just a slight difference between plant and animal cells. Okay, so as always, make sure that you are looking at this and filling it in, and then also either emailing this to me or uploading it to PowerSchool Learning. Okay, so this will kind of conclude our conclude our unit on the cell cycle and mitosis, and pretty soon we'll be moving to meiosis, which can be a little bit confusing, but you'll get the point. And eventually we'll get into DNA, okay? So that is the genetic material that is in all or most of your cells. All right, so that is going to be it for today, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day.